Vikas Khemani joins us, and let's take our conversation forward. And everybody's smiling. On Tuesday, कहाँ थी हंसी? हाँ जी.
अरे क्या
No, no,
क्या
I'm
बोल
saying
रहे हो?
everybody's smiling today, but Tuesday, exactly a week ago, same time, the smile was missing, right?
That's what happens. No, I think is all. That's what markets are made of. That's what things are always like that. Risk always comes from unexpected, and which is what happened this time also. So, but the good news is that the government is back. We have not had very terrible outcome where they are not in power. So that's the reason Smile is back. That's the reason markets are back. So I think it's a good outcome. In fact, there is one section of market which believes that NDA with less majority, a little bit of checks and balances is good from a reform perspective, from a from a having credible voice of opposition perspective. So I think it's good. Uh, Prime Minister has, I think, spoken very well in terms of what he wants to achieve in next sort of 5 years. The cabinet continuity also ensures that the more of same will continue, and I think there won't be any major disruption in the policy. So I think these are the very good signs, and that is what we would have expected if BJP got full majority. So in that sense, I think it's not a bad outcome to have. And so I'm quite okay with that. Yeah.
How did you use Tuesday's decline? What did you buy? And have you sold something assuming that next 3 years would be different from last 3 years?
We were kind of quite lucky in that sense. We were sitting on cash. As you know, that we had launched Bharat Amrit Kal fund. So we were sitting on almost on 50-60% cash in the new fund. So fortunately, we did not deploy on third when markets were, running up, and because we were not comfortable at that kind of pop up. And when markets fell on fourth, we kind of deployed entire money. So to that extent, I think we got lucky. Other than that, I don't think my view on the India story changes. The structural driver of the growth changes. The whole Bharat Amrit Kal thesis is, in my opinion, intact. Whether it is manufacturing, whether it is investment in infrastructure, our robust banking and financial services growth, consumption growth, none of those are kind of at risk. In fact, more of this, I mean, that is continuing. So I don't think any investment hypothesis changes with this outcome. If at all, only it will be, in my opinion, better and bigger, and will accelerate. Given the fact that the way Prime Minister has spoken that next 5 years, I want to not compare with what we have done in the past, but what needs to be done, keeping India at a global stage. So it just gives an indication that probably a lot more vigor, a lot more rigor, a lot more aggression, or sense of urgency could be there.
Okay. Let's now look at three components. Now that it is crystal clear that अब की बार coalition सरकार मगर continuity में change नहीं होगा. It's very clear that there is the cabinet formation does not indicate anything that there is a compulsion of coalition which is at play. What do you think will continue to move on in terms of a theme, idea, or a policy push? What do you think is likely to get more renewed and is going to get more revived? And what do you think would be a new pocket or a new policy initiative which will be kick-started? Three parts. What will continue, what will become bigger, and what new could start?
I think what will continue, in my opinion, same building, push on infrastructure, push on manufacturing. Prime Minister has spoken many times about, how we need to become self-reliant. So I think those policies will continue. I think, the reforms, especially in some of the critical sectors, will continue. I mean, whether it was power, infrastructure, everywhere, I think lots of things were happening, and maybe, they will continue. Especially one sector where I think it can become bigger is probably power, because India is reasonably, getting at a shortage of power in few years if we don't address that in a meaningful manner. So I think probably power and related, and thermal power especially, and related around that could probably get a little bit more focus, because that's a very big need of India. I think again within infrastructure you could see a lot more happening on the port side, a lot more happening on the logistics cost betterment side. That I think is a very critical need in terms of if India has to leapfrog from here. Um, I think what might also find new this thing would be probably a little bit of focus on consumption as in a rural economy. While I do not believe it is a big distress, but probably I think focus will shift back to a little bit more rural. in terms of either improving productivity or leaving more money in the hands of farmer. And I think that could have a bit of implications on the consumption side. In last 5 years we never bought consumption stocks, but first time in last 1.5 months we've been buying consumption stock. So that could be a new segment to kind of focus, in my opinion. I mean, anyway, consumption story remains very intact for India from a premiumization and growth perspective, but this could have a little bit more dimension to that. Other than, I don't think any major disruptive kind of, which from economic perspective, of course, judicial reforms are pending, which if this government carries out, could be a great booster from a re-rating perspective. Now, that part one does not know whether this government will have willingness or support to carry that out. We do not know, right? Prime Minister's talked about some of the bureaucratic reforms. I don't know whether that will have that kind of possibility this time around. So some of those can be probably, land reforms, labor reforms can probably be, farm laws can be probably put aside. We don't know that yet, but can be put aside. But having said that, if you see Indian economic grew in last many years without some of these, so it's not that our growth is really hinging upon only on some of these reforms. If they happen, it'll be great, and we can accelerate. But if it doesn't happen, I think Indian story still remains quite all right.
Vikas, morning. What's the outlook when it comes to the overall IT sector, given the fact that we had seen many downward revisions coming in? Yesterday, for instance, was a down day, but by and large, what's the long-term trend indicating when it comes to IT? Does one have to be very selective even when looking at this basket?
Again, one has to be selective while looking at any basket, because ultimately sector will grow. There's no doubt in that, in my opinion. India's market leadership in the sector, aging population across the globe, and constant technology disruption. These are the three drivers of IT sector for us. I don't think that changing anywhere. A lot of people see AI as a risk. I see AI as an opportunity even for the IT sector. Of course, within that, few companies will not do well and few companies will take benefit of that. That's the matter of research and finding it out, right? I mean, like I said, most people think that IT has not been doing well. But most of our stocks in last 1.5 years are up between 50% to 300%. So you can find, especially in the mid cap IT, especially in the IT company which are addressing to ER&D space, so I think you have a good game going on. And another point I want to highlight, today's, I think Economic Times also says that, but number of GCCs which are opening in India are very, very sharp, and that industry is expected to double by 2030 as per ET report today, and we've been saying that for quite some time. So if that happens, even that also enables sort of growth for not only, data center, office space, as well as some of the support IT services. So I think, we are quite positive on IT sector, but of course, within that you got to select your stocks. Large caps might struggle, niche plays might do well. So those are our thoughts on ITS per se.
Okay. Because so in terms of what you were positioning in terms of portfolio, let's say, and 1st of June versus now, nothing changes for you.
Absolutely not. I mean, I don't think, nothing changes from India conviction perspective. Nothing changes from what sector we will buy or more. I mean, the normal tweaking which we keep doing in our portfolio, that's par for course, all the time we do, irrespective of anything. So, frankly speaking, I have said in multiple times that, the post elections also, that I think India's story remains intact. And fortunately, continuing government will only, I think, get better. And some of the new sector segment which I mentioned about might have to be attended to.
But what about this mad rush what we've seen in PSUs? There was no differentiation. I mean, as long as there was a prefix PSU or a suffix PSU, that stock did well.
So I think because again, one has to see, at least we don't buy that way. We never bought PSU because there was prefix PSU on that. We bought because some of the PSU, and again, credit goes to government, where they enabled growth in that, they got leadership on those growths. Like, for example, PSU banks. We never bought because it was cheap. We felt that there were three structural problems of PSU banks which government addressed: asset quality, technology, and governance. If you see, asset quality got provided very well. And these are three counts where they always suffered vis-a-vis private sector bank. Asset quality got very well addressed. Governance, I think, thanks to again government, we have very, very good high quality CEOs at the top, and they are given full freedom to transform the banks and run the banks without any interference from them. And lastly, Technology 10 years ago was a buy and a play. Today it is, build play. Today it is, plug and play. You can buy ready technologies. So most PSU banks have invested significant amount of technology. So with this differentiation in the public and private sector has been going down. And that was our thesis why the valuation difference between public and private sector banks will narrow. And which is what is precisely happening. So I see, and still that will continue according to us. As long as these three things remain intact, I think, and whichever segment you can apply, whether it is some of the defense PSUs or you can apply in the power sector PSU where we again seeing the similar thing. So then I guess stocks will do well, they will get re-rated. We never bought whether it can be divested or whether it's fat to buy PSU. That's not at least our approach is.
Okay, Vikas, great to have you on the show. Thanks as always for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much. Lovely chatting with you.
Okay, we're going to take a